So we'll be talking about the Samsung Tab S8 Plus and the Samsung Tab S8 Ultra. Now these are very powerful tablets, and they're also one of the biggest in terms of size. So we'll be comparing some of their features, and let's get into it. We're starting with the S8 Plus. Now in terms of design, it is an ultra slim aluminum platter with a screen on one side. In fact, the S8 Plus is almost all screen. The left and right edges have 2 speakers each, meaning it has 4 speakers in total, and they sound noticeably better than the average laptop. Now the only problem with the placement of the speakers is that they're easy to block with your hands when you're holding the tablet because they're on the sides. Now despite the significant size of this tab, there's no headphone jack, which some people might find a bit disappointing, but then it still has Bluetooth, which means you can use your wireless headphones, AirPods with this device. But I'm sure some people would have appreciated a headphone jack, because I mean, it's not that big. It could have been easily fit into the design, but there's no headphone jack on this tab. Now you do get a micro SD card slot with this device, which is a nice bonus in this day and age. The only port on this tab is a USB-C port on the right edge in landscape. So Samsung includes the stylus with this tablet, and it has the full suite of the S Pen functionality via Bluetooth connectivity. The pen charges whenever it's docked to the back of the tablet, to which it adheres magnetically. The S Pen is physically identical to the previous generations. It's about the size of the traditional pen, which makes it easier and more comfortable to hold long term. So the S8 Plus comes with cameras, obviously, but I don't think anybody buys tabs for the cameras, because most of the tabs out there have some of the worst cameras ever. However, this S8 Plus tab has a main camera of 13 megapixels and ultra wide of only 6 megapixels. They are not stabilized, which can make it difficult to snap photos with something this heavy. Colors are vibrant, but exposure trends longer, making movements difficult to capture. The S8 Plus lacks the second front-facing camera of the Ultra, but the one you get is acceptable for video calls. It's sharper than the webcam on most laptops. Now the Tab 8 Plus is not as hefty as competing tablets. It's actually not bad for reading long documents, and the S Pen is perfect for adding notes or doodling on them. Now let's talk about the screen and display. This tab has 12.4-inch OLED screen and a refresh rate of 120Hz. Now the maximum brightness doesn't hit the lofty peaks of Samsung phones, but it's still more than bright enough for usage across most lighting conditions. As for storage and performance, Samsung has worked with Google to make Android better for the large screen, and it shows. Now the Tab S8 runs on the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. Now it also comes with 8GB or 12GB of RAM and 128GB or 256GB that is expandable up to 1TB with a micro SD. Android's lack of app optimization on tablets is still a big problem for both these tabs. Commonly used apps such as Slack and Instagram just look like blown out versions of their smartphone counterparts. Obviously, this isn't the case with all apps. Now, as for battery life, the S8 has a 10,090 mAh battery, which is acceptable but not exactly impressive. With heavy use, the Tab S8 can last through 2 days of gaming and multi-window apps. Now let's talk about the S8 Ultra in details. So as for the design, it is a huge tablet. Now I mentioned that the S8 Plus is somewhere around 12 inches in size. The S8 Ultra is even larger. Now, depending on your gadget preferences, the size of this tab can either be a major selling point or a major turn-off. When the tablet is in landscape, the USB port is on the right side, while the power button, volume rocker and SIM tray are on the top edge at the far left. There's also a 3-pin connector at the bottom, which is used for accessories. Now the back of this tab is coated in glass. Two interesting things to note here are the small camera bumps, which houses 2 lenses and a magnetic streak that you connect to the S Pen stylus. Now the massive amount of screen real estate is great for note-taking and sketching, as well as viewing multiple documents at once or one large sheet at a time. Plus, it's great as a portable screen for playing games or watching movies. This tablet also has 4 speakers with great bass and treble. There are 4 cameras on the Galaxy Tab S8 Ultra. So unlike the S8 Plus, the S8 Ultra has 2 front cameras, and they are both 12 megapixels. The S8 Ultra also has back cameras of 13 megapixels and 6 megapixels, just like the S8 Plus. Now this camera, like I mentioned earlier, isn't the best because nobody really buys tablets for their camera quality, but they are really good for scanning documents, AR functions, and reference imagery. So now we'll be talking about the screen and display. The flagship feature of the Galaxy Tab S8 Ultra is its giant 14.6-inch screen, which is like there's a major difference in the size of the S8 Plus and the S8 Ultra. The S8 Ultra is bigger than a couple of laptops, so like if you really want a huge screen, then you go for the S8 Ultra. If not, you should probably stick for S8 Plus, which is also still really large or lesser. So because the screen size is really large, this tab is great for watching movies, sketching, working, for everything really. The device is useful both as an entertainment companion and as a second screen for your work laptop. It has a refresh rate of 120Hz just as the S8 Plus, which makes motion seem smooth, and this will particularly be useful for gamers. The screen uses AMOLED tech, so the colors are bold and contrast is stark, which will prove particularly useful for creatives who need good color accuracy or work with visuals for their job. So as for storage and performance, the S8 Ultra is super powerful thanks to the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 chipset. That's the top-end chip used by Android devices at the time of the tablet's release. The power of this tab will also be useful for intensive creative apps and functions. The chipset is paired with 8GB, 12GB and 16GB of RAM, which will prove very useful if your workflow involves loads of apps. Storage tops out at 512GB, meaning you have from 128 to 512GB of storage, but a micro SD card slot lets you get an additional 1TB space if you want it. Now for the battery life, there's a significant bump in battery as compared to the S8 Plus. The S8 Ultra comes with 11,200 mAh power pack, so it is meaty enough to provide the gigantic screen with loads of juice. The battery life is not something you need to think or worry too much about, no matter how hard you push the device. It has more than enough longevity to get you through the workday with plenty still left for the next day. So the major pros of the Tab S8 Plus, which you would like to keep in mind if you're considering buying it, is that it has a gorgeous display, its slim and elegant design is just to die for, and it includes an S Pen, and is also better for multitasking than other Android tablets. Now for the S8 Plus Ultra, it also has a gorgeous and expansive OLED screen. It's efficient for multitasking and it comes with the Android 12. It has long update support and it includes the S Pen. And it also has dual front-facing cameras as opposed to the S8 Plus, which has only one selfie camera. So in conclusion, internally these two devices are almost identical, but the Tab S8 Ultra has a much larger screen and it has an extra front-facing camera. However, the Tab S8 Plus is easier to justify if you want a big high-end Android slate. The S8 Plus is also cheaper in price as compared to the S8 Ultra. You should probably keep that in mind if you're considering buying any one of these two. So that's it for today. If you found this information useful, please be sure to follow us on all our social media platforms and turn on our post notifications so you get notified every time we post new content. Now, if you haven't shopped on our website yet, what are you waiting for? You can shop on our website for any of your gadgets, any one at all. Just go to www.sourcemygadgets.com and you would find what you're looking for. We also have a recommendation engine for those who are still trying to figure out what gadgets best fit their lifestyle. Be sure to use that tool as well.